joined the Marine Corps. I spent 13 years active duty. And about 7 years into that journey, I realized, I'm broke. I'm working a ton of hours. I have nothing to show for this. There's got to be a way to set myself up for success. The brand is like the single most valuable thing I've ever done. And like if I had to choose between the two, I would trade my entire real estate portfolio before I ever even entertained the idea of shutting my brand down. In the next 5.5 years, I went from broke enough that my first down payment I only had the money for because somebody totaled my Harley and I got an insurance payout to, 5.5 years later, I had, I think at the time, 116 doors with controlling interest and enough income to where I just never had to work again.
What's up, David? How you doing, man? All right.
Anyway, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. Really good to see you, man. It's been a while. I know you've been connecting with Shanae, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we
I
were on the
haven't
phone
talked to you.
earlier. It was good times.
Yeah, thank
She
you for
seems like
agreeing to
good
do this.
good people.
What was
Your new affiliate stuff, like
She's good, man.
she's awesome.
She's on top of things. Yeah.
I know
It's
she's good when Dossie vouches for somebody.
right. Yeah, it's hard to get an endorsement from Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'd like to say Ryan endorses me, but
No, he does.
you
Yeah.
know, who
Yeah.
knows? No, I'm just kidding. He let me drive his McLaren. I feel like that's says something, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't let people I dislike drive my car. So,
Yeah.
but
Especially that kind of a car.
I was gonna say, especially that car. Yeah.
Yeah, especially that car.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
Welcome to our mastermind call, and you've done incredibly well in last few years. So I wanted to bring you on and just kind of share about, something a little bit different that I absolutely look up to you for building a community that you've done. I think that's like so great that a lot of investors are missing, like kind of the networking aspect of it, whether they're using it build a community to educate, sell a product, service, whatever it might be, or to get referrals. So I wanted to bring you on and talk a little bit about that and see how you've been able to leverage community, build a community, leverage it, and then how, like, kind of what your plans are. So yeah, just give us a little bit of introduction about yourself, and then we'll just go from there into the Q&A session.
Easy, good sir. Well, let's see. Me. I was your typical homeschooled, sheltered, religious, conservative kid out of Little Rock, Arkansas, who wanted to leave. I was like, how do I get out of this city? And the recruiters did a really good job of making the point that the government would pay me to travel if I wanted to see the world. And so I fell into the Marine Corps right out of high school. I mean, it was as soon as you could have gotten me to boot camp, I was ready to see the world and have an adventure and joined the Marine Corps. I spent 13 years active duty. I left, we're coming up on 3 years ago. And about 7 years into that journey, I realized, I'm broke. I'm working a ton of hours. I have nothing to show for this. There's got to be a way to set myself up for success. And somebody handed me that book everybody reads, Rich Dad Poor
Hmm.
Dad. Uh, it's funny. I actually told him I don't. I was like, dude, I don't like to read, and he literally pulled a CD-ROM out of his pocket and was like, here, listen to it while you drive. And
What?
so it was
Seriously?
yeah, it
Oh,
was an introduction. And the
yeah.
funniest part about this is he was trying to get me into Amway. So he wasn't even trying to get me into real estate, but the
Oh,
book
wow,
sold
crazy.
on real estate. It also was my, introduction to audiobooks, which I've now, I mean, Audible is my jam. And so, well, it was. Now I have a Tesla, so I can like be on my phone while I drive. So I
Hmm.
don't listen to as many audiobooks. I shouldn't. Anyway, that book changed my life. In the next 5.5 years, I went from broke enough that my first down payment I only had the money for because somebody totaled my Harley and I got an insurance payout to, 5.5 years later, I had, I think at the time, 116 doors with controlling interest and enough income to where I just never had to work again. Well, I never had to work for anybody else again. So I've been out now 3 years, took my own, do my own thing. It's been a very interesting journey. The whole online branding portion of it that we're going to talk about was kind of an accident and honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then the real estate thing was, well, that's where we got connected back when I was working with Dossie. I would like
Absolutely.
to say I don't know if I'm supposed to go on record saying this. So if not, just you guys never heard this. I'm the only person Ryan's ever let into his community for free that actually bought houses.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he
Right.
hooked me up way back when, and then we've been friends because I think I've probably brought like 4 or 5 other people into his community because of how much it changed my
Right.
life. In fact, begrudgingly, I even introduced him to I lost a private lender to Ryan because now he's doing his own thing. It was one of my best private lenders, but he's doing his own thing now. And so that's where I got
Yeah.
introduced to you and REsimpli, and now I've used that in two different wholesaling companies. And it's one of, I would say, two softwares I will never get rid of, even if I'm not actively pursuing real estate. And that is you and PropStream. Between
Yeah.
between the two of you, I don't need anything else.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that endorsement. So you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then from there you started kind of buying properties. How did the community side of this happen? Was that something that you had always thought about in the back of your mind, or it just kind of, happened because people were coming up to you and asking questions?
Neither, actually. It was stroke of luck. Well, I should stop using the word luck, right? I made the right move kind of on accident. Brandon Turner, when I was stationed out in Hawaii for 3 years, Brandon posted that he was going to do a meetup, like a super last minute. Hey, if you're in this area, come say hi. And so I went, I fangirled, high five, said hi, whatever. But I didn't want to annoy him. So I networked with all the other locals because I thought I'll probably never see him again. So I'll talk to all the local people. And turns out the guy that I became friends with in that local circle was actually the person Brandon and his family were staying with during that trip. And so he invited me to go surfing. Next thing I know, I'm on a 4 hour surf trip with Brandon and Doug and talking real estate. So the long short there is Brandon was looking to move to Hawaii, and I thought the best way to add value to him was to find him an off-market property. So I was sending him stuff. Ends up nothing I sent him was good enough. He went to a different island. But in that time, he came back to visit again, and he wanted to go, surfing on different beaches. And I was like, hey, the Marine Corps base here has probably two of the best beaches on the island for surfing, but you can't get on without somebody sponsoring you on with their ID card. So why don't you guys come over for dinner? We'll go surf, we'll have dinner, we'll hang out. Like, it was a selfish, let me get to know Brandon more, but also help him surf some of the nicer beaches in town. And over that dinner, I asked him, essentially how he writes books, because I was interested in writing a book. Nothing to do with real estate. I was interested in writing a book from my time in Afghanistan. And he recommended that I start a blog and just get practice with writing articles. And I'd never even thought about blogging. And I was like, cool, but like what in the world do I write about? And Brandon just kind of casually was like, I don't know. There's a lot of other military guys that buy houses. Why don't you just talk about what you're learning and what you're doing? And so my first few articles are like, some of them are jokingly, hey, how to search better on Google using their advanced search tools with parentheses and quotes and whatever. But nothing to do with real estate. Then what happened is I started writing articles. I was learning about the VA loan. So I started writing an article about the VA loan. Then people started asking questions, specific questions. And when I heard the same question 2 or 3 times, I would write an article. I would learn about that and then write an article to address that. And then probably about the same time, I started a Facebook group. About 6, 7 months later, someone told me I should start a podcast. Basically, the story is anytime somebody who was more successful than me said, you should try this, I tried it and it either worked or it didn't. And then we kind of morphed to where we are now. I launched that blog. The first post probably went live in February of 2018. And in 2020, mid 2020, I was looking at my Facebook group and I realized I had like 7,000 people in it and it just started to take off. And it was about then that I said, hey, this is actually a business. Like, this is not, I don't know what I've been doing, but I should probably figure it out because now people are coming to me as the guy to answer their questions, help them make introductions, and so the whole thing really started as me just documenting what I was learning, what I was doing. And then, yeah, now it's morphed to where I'm kind of known as like the guy for military investing or anything like VA loan, real estate investing. I kind of have a very, very similar flavor to Ryan, where you can kind of see the sign back there that says no BS, and I just straightforward call people out when they're posting things where the numbers don't add up. And yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the crazy answer there is it was an accident. And then I got really intentional about it. Now I'm trying to help 10,000 vets achieve financial freedom.
Nice, man. First of all, thank you for your service, man. Like,
Oh,
what an
appreciate it.
incredible job you've done. So it started out basically just adding value. Just, people would have questions. They're like, okay, I'm going to do the research rather than people having to do the research. I'm going to do the research, write an article about it, right? And then from there, like, okay, I have enough people now. They're asking more questions. They're like, okay, I'm going to create a Facebook community and get people to come together, ask questions to each other. So someone who's in like the real estate investor side of it, right? how can they build something similar with the intention being that they want to scale their business on, be able to connect people, lenders, and be able to buy properties? Like, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, and I suppose before we dig too much further, I should preface this. I started accidentally. Over the last 3 years, it's become my full focus, very intentional. So I've actually learned a ton about this so it's not, I don't want it to come off like, oh, here's this guy who got lucky. It is something I am very passionate about, know a lot about. And the what's in it for you, I would suppose for the listeners, I would trade my entire real estate portfolio before I ever even entertained the idea of shutting my brand down. And like if I had to choose between the two, the brand allows me, now I'm in a spot where if I find a good deal, I can send an email, raise all the money for it, take it down and move on. The brand is like the single most valuable thing I've ever done. And so I just throw that out there because if you're like, why are we talking about this on a real estate call? Because when I one weekend I locked up 7 wholesale deals and I had no idea what to do with them. And so I sent out an email. I ended up raising the money to take 4 of them down myself, and I sold the other 3 in I think 72 hours with 2 emails. And it was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Yeah, no,
um,
I think that the power of building a community, it doesn't have to be like tens of thousands of people that you have. You could be absolutely the expert and have like, few dozen people to like couple of hundred people in your community that like follow you, that kind of, look up to you as an expert and then really leverage that. I think there's a lot of power in that. So yeah, if you can share that, like what are some of the things that you've learned? How can, investors that are just starting out or just doing consistent deals can build that community in their area?
yeah, I would say if you want to get like super specific into anything, I have like hour to hour and a half long videos on my YouTube channel where I built full presentations for my community teaching like soup to nuts. If you want to create a Facebook group, here's how to do it. Like these are the settings to launch. This is what I recommend for how the group should be set up, how you should manage it. I did one for YouTube. I did one for Facebook. I did one for like basics of email marketing. So I just say that to say like we aren't going to get into the point, I don't imagine, where I'm sharing my screen and talking you through how to manage a Facebook group on this call.
No, no, we don't. Yeah,
But
we
I
don't need to
have
get
that.
into.
So if you want
Yeah.
it, the single most important piece is your niche. Everybody thinks I'm the, if you try to compete at the phrase real estate investing or real estate investor, you're never going to catch up to like bigger pockets. They unfortunately they own, some of these places own those websites and the keywords so much that you'll just kind of get a wash. But if you figure out what your unique niche is there, so for me, it's military real estate investing. I just helped a buddy launch a community where it's residential assisted living real estate investing. So it's really figuring out like what kind of real estate you want to do and then like who you want to serve. And so I would always end up like start with the avatar in mind. So if your goal is just purely to raise capital from accredited investors, then you should make your content targeting, doctors, lawyers, whoever that person is. But if your goal is just to, you want to educate at some point, then I would say just document your journey and be specific about who you are, right? If I see Yolanda, I don't know if the Golden Gate Bridge indicates that you are in San Francisco or if that's just the virtual background. But we'll say she's in San Francisco and she could go and be, San Francisco real estate investing or San Francisco wholesaling or whatever. And that would be, a niche. Or you could choose if you're a firefighter, like, there's a couple different, but I think really going 2 levels deep as to who you are, what makes you unique, who you're trying to serve, and niching down. People think if you get too niche that nobody will buy your product, but it's almost the opposite being true. If like I started out as simply military real estate investing, and now I'm more like the military investing guy, it's easier to break through if you have a very small group of people that are looking for what you're talking about. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, no, it totally does. And so start with something that's very, very niche. So you have very small group of people that can totally relate to that. And once you build that, then kind of similar to what you're doing, then you have, so to speak, you've earned the rights to go into other, verticals, like go from real estate investing to investing, because now you build that brand, people have started trusting you. And it's a perfect example, kind of like what you mentioned to Yolanda, if she's in San Francisco, that she could just focus on I don't know, like if she's raising money, like doctors, attorneys, engineers in San Francisco Bay Area, like, how can they earn extra capital? How can they do that? And what's the best way? I mean, like Facebook, absolutely. And by the way, guys, I dropped links to David's YouTube channel and also the video that he was talking about how to grow the
Oh,
Facebook
thanks.
group in the chat. So if you want to grab that link, that'll be great. But not everyone, not everyone who's on this call, real estate investor, like a Facebook group might be the best channel, like YouTube might be the best channel. But is there any social media that you've noticed where you're like, okay, if you have to just pick one platform, do this, and then you can use other platforms to kind of scale from there? Or do you suggest being on multiple platforms at the same time?
I would say you can be on multiple platforms at the same time just because it's easy to cross post. But I would say at the very beginning, it makes sense to focus on the one or two that fit your personality. And so if you're, like if you're familiar with the disc profile, I'm a 99I. I am the very stereotypical like people pleaser, people person, good with people, want to be loved by whatever. So for me, like the Facebook group is a win because it's more of a community feel, whereas Instagram, while I do very well on Instagram, is just kind of, other than like the DMs, it's just a fleeting post and some comments. Nobody's really like interacting together there too much. The Facebook group is much better for that. I'd say if you're trying to serve like a local area and your goal with your community is to really like drive business locally. The Facebook group's good, but in that case, I would say YouTube, because YouTube, most people don't know, is owned by Google. It's the second largest search engine in the world. So I guess I could throw this out there. This is how much I believe in all this junk. Um, I am 7 episodes recorded out of 10. And once I get to 10, I'll launch this podcast. So in the next month, I'm going to launch a new podcast. It is called the Springfield Business Podcast. It is my city, Springfield, Missouri, and I'm going to do nothing but interview like chamber members, business owners, entrepreneurs, people in the economy. And I'm really banking on, like, one of my big sales pitches for people is like, well, why would I come on your podcast? Well, because if I type in best title company in Springfield, Missouri right now, I get some Google pages, and it's all like, Google Maps and Google reviews and whatever. But if your video goes up on YouTube and that's the title, when someone types that into the search bar, the only thing that's going to pop up is that same stuff. And then you on a YouTube interview talking about your business in Springfield, sitting down with me, and
Yeah.
it makes it way easier to target locally. So I guess it really kind of depends on, I would say, your personality, what platform you enjoy enough that you'll stick with it, because consistency is what matters, and then like your end goal. So for me, if you're trying to do something very targeted, I'd say YouTube. And if you're trying to just kind of do like a overarching, like this is who I am, I like Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. TikTok grows
Yeah.
fast, but let's be real, the people on TikTok are virtually useless as clients. So you have to get
Yeah,
them
that's what
something else.
yeah, that's what we've noticed at like working with some industry experts. If they have a very large TikTok following, we've noticed it doesn't convert, it doesn't
No.
translate very well into like, actual business that you can get out of it. And by the way, I love the idea of like basically being the expert, business expert in Springfield, Missouri. Like I
Yeah.
think that what happens from there on is, because you'll have so much content in just your local market. Again, like this is a very small market. Like this is not like, New York City or Los Angeles. It's a
Yeah.
small market. You can totally own that market. So now imagine like you're interviewing all these business experts, and now I would imagine like once you start releasing these, an agent, who has, or lender who has, some deal that he wants you to, like, you're the expert because you have so much content or you have so much knowledge on it. That's how I would imagine an investor can start becoming absolutely the expert. Okay, they might think, they might start out with a goal of, I want to get 10,000 followers, but if they're in a small market, it doesn't matter. Like you could have 3, 4, 500 quality subscribers or followers, but you're going to leverage that so much that it's going to be unbelievable. But then is the goal, David, to get the email address? So once you're posting these videos, then somehow are you trying to get that email address or phone number so you can actually kind of take that conversation offline, so to speak, like off social media, and then communicate with them through email or phone numbers or through
Yeah.
calls or text?
Yeah, I would certainly encourage people to I have a basic video on email market, like how to build a list. I, the number one answer I hear from entrepreneurs, or I should say influencers, like people who have a community, when people ask, what's the biggest mistake you made when you first started? It's almost unanimously not starting an email list sooner. And the reason for that is, well, whether you like politics or not, right? We're not going to get political here, but I'm going to name Andrew Tate. Everybody knows who that guy is, whether you like him or not. And basically, one day, the internet decided they didn't like Andrew Tate anymore, and he got kicked off every platform known to man. And had he not had an email list, he would have been like, it would have been damn near impossible for him to start anything else again. But because he had been, collecting emails from people in his content, and when I say collecting emails, I mean you're posting a lead magnet. You're saying, like, for me, it's my best one is, hey, if you want to download my book for free, you can go to this link. You can buy it on Amazon, but you can just download the PDF here for free. And then, I get your email in exchange for that. And so if I get kicked off, I have about 300,000, probably like 280, 300,000 followers across all platforms. And it's great. But if I got kicked off everything, I've got, I think, 38,000 people in an email list right now. I could take and say, hey, this is what happened. We're moving to this platform. Like, would they all come? Who knows? But at least I have something, because they can't take that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that becomes your asset, right? You're not depending on someone else. You're not depending on a social media platform. You're absolutely right. Like, you could be taken off any day for whatever reason. It's happened with people before where they get kicked off YouTube just because of their algorithm, catches something totally incorrectly. And they're like, oh, shoot, what do I do? But if you have your own asset, like the email addresses and the phone numbers, then you can still continue maintaining that relationship. And what I've noticed in a lot of cases is once you get these people to connect with you through email or phone, then they're not really going to your YouTube channel or social media to like follow you, but then they just email you if they have any question. They'll call you or text you if they have any questions. So then your relationship is nurturing part is happening through email or calls or through other communication anyway. Any thoughts or ideas on like best way for real estate investor to capture email addresses for, let's say if they're trying to raise money, working with lenders or they're working with agents to source deals? Any ideas on what they could use as a lead magnet to get email addresses?
Yeah, I like to try to back plan this as much as possible. So let's say you're looking for private lenders. So they don't need to be accredited. You don't care. They just need to be someone you have a relationship with that would be comfortable investing in one of your deals. Like, the question is, how do you create content that person would be interested in? And so let's say you're looking for private lenders in Springfield, Missouri. You know, my lead magnet ideas would probably be, like either an ebook or a guide or a video or something that they would be interested in, that talks about how to avoid, or how this method, like how investors can, earn a better return than the stock market, or how you can avoid taxes through real estate, or how, like, depending on what your niche is. So if you're just looking for a private lender, I would basically try to create some kind of guide that's like, you know, how to get guaranteed returns backed by fixed by solid assets, as opposed to in the stock market. I mean, my biggest pitch for private lending usually is just, I'll give you 1.10% interest. The market, you have no idea what it's going to do over the next 12 months, but I will pay you. And so it's just figuring out how to generate something that would interest that person. And it's not going to be like, join my email list so you can see pictures of my puppies. It might, if your niche is, dog walking, but if your niche is private money, it needs to be something about, hey, if you'd like my free guide on how I made, or how I generated investors $19,000 a month without them having to, do anything. Or
Right.
like some of you, Dossie does this well, and I've kind of captured it a little bit, where you'll post on his story and it'll just say, on this deal, my investor made $17,000. And
Right.
people go, what, how'd that, my best like proof source for private lending is a guy named Mike. I'm not going to give everyone his last name because he's mine. But I did a deal with him. I took down a house that had been, burned out, and it went like everything that could have gone wrong on this deal did. Like, my contractor quit on me, my acquisitions manager ran false numbers, my project manager quit on me. Like, it was just a mess. And in that process, I lost around $12,000 on that property. and my private lender made 16,000 between points and interest over the like 15 months we held it. And he didn't actually know until like a year later that I lost money. In fact, it was funny. I wasn't the one who told him. I was like, oh yeah, I was at an event. And I was like, oh, this is the guy who lent on that house with the fire. And one of the guys who knew me was like, oh, isn't that the one you lost your shirt on? And he like clicked. He had no idea I'd lost money on it. And so from then on, like he's been my best proof source when people are iffy. I'm like, go talk to this guy. He'll tell you that I paid him $16,000 in, points and interest over the last whatever amount of time frame on this deal. And then he didn't even know that I actually lost money on the deal. And I would have made 4,000 if I hadn't paid him, but he got all his money and I lost money. So it's like, I guess just finding creative ways to throw out the
Yeah.
benefits that your investors are getting, and that'll be enough to draw them into
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely. I think like starting with always, which you absolutely do that, from your social media, is starting with adding value. Like if you question yourself, you challenge yourself, okay, what can I do to add value to the people that I want to do business with? Like what can I provide them for free that's actually going to add value to them? It could be like if you're trying to work with a private lender, hey, these are the top 5 things that you want to make sure you check, or 5 documents that you want to have, working with a private before you lend money on something, or these are the tax benefits you can get. Just something that like, okay, this person is adding value to me, and then you kind of go from there, and then just start collecting their email addresses. And then if nothing else, just share with them. You don't have to like pitch them on something. What I've noticed works best is like you just share with them kind of what's working for you, and then pull people in, through your success, through the things that you're doing. And always like super important is to get testimonials. I think that works long way. Just helped you so much. Just get video testimonials and just share with people, hey, this is the person that we help with, this was the situation, this is how we help them, whatever it might be, whether it's seller, working with a seller, working with an agent, working with a private lender, do those sort of things, and then just keep building your brand from there. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've made as you build your brand, kind of, build your community, and you're like, okay, oh, I definitely would not do that again?
Letting off the gas is the biggest one. Like consistency is king on almost every platform. I think part of my answer there would just be not being authentic. I was worried at first about, all the negative comments or offending people, and so I censored myself. And when I say censored myself, I don't I mean, I wouldn't use language in my content that I do in my day-to-day life. So I would find a polite way to word it instead of being like, you're just being a little, whatever. Um, and more importantly, like if I disagreed with something, I would usually just be like, it's not worth the headache to post that. Or I wouldn't call people out. Like, I won't name the guy, but there's an influencer that I think is a total fraud. And when he posts stuff where he, talks about all the money he makes and he runs through his numbers, I always take that and or not always, but I have taken that now and made content with it where I'm like, yeah, well, he forgot maintenance, he forgot vacancy, he forgot capex. Like, this is what those numbers probably would look like. Like, and so I'm not saying you need to do any of that, but like with my niche, the more I've become comfortable being myself, whether that means I swear a little bit on my content or whatever, the more it cuts out the people that really I don't care to have in my community anyway. So I would just say be authentically you. Like, you don't have to be Gary Vaynerchuk swearing up and down everywhere. But if that's you, then, be you. He's clearly proof that it doesn't hurt you if you've got the right dynamic. So I would just say, yeah, be authentically yourself. And I would also say, this isn't actually one I made, but it's probably the most common I see, is you don't have to come out the gate as an expert. So if you're new to this, it is actually more of a draw for you to be documenting your journey and talking about things you're learning than it will ever be for you to put on a face and pretend that you're the best thing since sliced bread when people can tell you're not.
So it could be, hey, I'm a new real estate investor trying to get my first deal, and I'm going to journey everything that I'm learning. I'm going to document
Absolutely.
everything that I'm learning along my journey. It could be anything. This is like where I'm finding my property. This is the tool that I'm using. This is the script that I'm using. This is how many times I'm calling. It could be as simple as that.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, like one of the really important things is to share the mistakes you're making, right?
I'm
Just
huge on that. Yeah.
all, yeah, like anytime you have a misstep, definitely share that. That makes you more relatable versus, like you mentioned, coming across as like this perfect person who knows everything. And in reality, you're kind of hiding all the mistakes, editing all the mistakes out, but share everything. Hey, this is where I messed up. Glad I made that mistake. Never going to happen again. But this is a learning lesson, and just definitely document that. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Being authentic, 100%. And when you go to YouTube, you can or any social media platform, you can easily tell who's being authentic or who's being not. And then at least for me, I gravitate towards people that are being authentic, that are people that are talking about what's working and more importantly, what's not working, so you can learn from those. What's the cadence of like posting on your social media platform? I mean, it's different for you now versus, when you were starting out, but at a minimum, how often would you say someone should post?
Yeah, I try to post. I think every platform's a little bit differently. Like TikTok and Instagram, I would say 100% try to post once or twice, 3 times every day. And yet, like Facebook group, it's more important that maybe occasionally ask an engaging question or make a really good post, but it's almost more important that you just answer people's questions because that, then they feed off of that and it's more engagement. Facebook will push your group if it's engaging more than anything else. So it's less about what content you make and more about the engagement you drive within the community. And so, for me, that's, hey, everybody share a win this week, or that's me answering questions, or hey, what's a problem you're struggling with? And then I go answer, try to help those people out. On YouTube, honestly, it's so hit or miss. I would say there's a balance between quality and quantity. And so, 1 to 3 videos a week is probably all you need long form, but one quality video will outperform 3 iffy videos. And then YouTube's got a weird algorithm where if I make 20 videos that are about military real estate investing, and then one day I decide I'm going to make a video about something totally different, not only will that video probably bomb, even if it was a great video, it will mess up my algorithm for what YouTube posts, because once that video bombs, then YouTube will go, well, hang on, like now his channel's not doing so hot. Let's not push as many people towards the new video, which is actually why I got rid of, like, my podcast goes live on a separate channel now, because the podcast, like, nobody really watched my YouTube video podcast. They all listened to it. And every time I posted a podcast and it got like 50 to 100 views, it would hurt my future videos that should have been getting
Right.
thousands of views. So I would just say, like, consistency. And when I first started, that was 2 YouTube videos a week, Instagram every day. And then what I was doing is I would write 2 blog posts and turn those into the YouTube video. So it would be 2 blog posts, 2 YouTube videos, Instagram, and then just answering questions in Facebook. But really, you don't have to go that all in. You can do, a little bit. You can, if you have the ability, you can film all day on like one day and then have that content just kind of post scheduled out over the next month. It's really just kind of depends.
And I talk to some investors who say, oh, I'm going to do this once I have the right setup or whatnot. How important do you think that is? Like, just use your iPhone or whatever phone you have and then just make content. Like, as you start generating revenue, then start investing, right? Again, just be authentic. Have you noticed that being an hindrance for people that are starting out?
Use your phone.
Yeah.
The most important thing is audio quality. And people underrate that all day. If you have, and I'm not saying you need to go buy a microphone like this, but I could have a really crappy video with great audio through my microphone, and it will do better than if I have the most highly produced video in the world and it was captured by my camera's audio and it's like echoey. So yeah, I would say cell phone, and then if you take it up a level, I would say you basically need a cell phone, a tripod, and some kind of a mic. And for me, I don't have the mic in here. I have a tripod that like folds down to this and then it just pulls out and it's got a
Yeah.
phone mount. And then I would get it's in the other room, but like they make mics that just plug into your power outlet and you just hold the mic and you just talk
Yeah.
into that, or you can clip it onto your hat or your shirt or whatever. And that, I mean, for a quality set, you're looking at like $300, but like realistically, $100, $150, and you've got
Right.
a tripod, a mic, and you already had a cell phone, and you can make content just as good as most people. I will tell you this, ironically, I don't think I'm gonna end up letting my video editor go. But I am gonna have to figure something out because he's awesome. He creates a ton of great content. But what I've noticed is if I just pick up the phone on Instagram and like green screen, so like post an article behind me and say, "What do you guys think about this?" or "Here are my thoughts on this," or just pick up the phone and talk to it, almost all of those videos outperform what he's editing, even though it's better content. It's just the algorithm likes real.
That's interesting. I'm curious, how do you see AI play any part in kind of community or like social media outreach? Do you see that being any factor in kind of what you're doing?
Oh yeah, I mean there's tons of tools that make your life easier on the AI front for editing, scheduling, posting, all of that. But the other side is um, there are also a ton of ways to use it for generating ideas. You know, you can say, hey, how do I target this type of person over the next 30 days with, draft me an Instagram strategy for videos to post to get in front of this person over the next 30 days. And you can have an entire content plan generated. I just drafted, I just used ChatGPT to write 5 emails to push a webinar I'm hosting next week. I have some emails that are copywritten by professionals that do really well, but I wanted to test out some different ones, and ChatGPT punched it out, very quickly. And I'm going to tweak a few things and throw that on the out in emails. So that saved me, a couple $100 or a couple hours of my time writing emails. And we'll see how well it converts, but I think just using it wherever you can to save yourself time. And
Right.
and the important thing there is if you are going to use something like ChatGPT 4, take a little bit of time and train it. So spend 30 minutes to an hour and go in there and say, let me tell you about who I am. Let me tell you about what I do. Like ChatGPT at this point has my logos, it knows my color schemes, it knows it's scraped my websites. I've fed it a bunch of answers and stuff about my podcast and my YouTube group. And so when I go to ChatGPT 4 now and I say, set up an email to push this to this audience, um, it's going to be much more in my voice, personalized than if you
Right.
haven't spent that time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a great idea. I used ChatGPT for something yesterday, and I didn't even think I could do what I was trying to do. It's like basically like completing a course. I swear it saved me at least like 7, 8 hours worth of time. And I was able to do that in like 30 minutes. It's incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. How has like, as you're posting videos, as you're posting like content online, does that impact you? Very curious, like outside in kind of how you're showing up? Like when you go to events and stuff, like, or you're just like, hey, this is who I am. Like, is it the same personality from your content to when you show up, to an event or someone meets you in person?
Depending on the event, if anything, I'd say I'm a little bit more out there in person than I am online. I have a uniquely sarcastic and outgoing personality. So, for reference, there, I am the guy, and this is, we'll say hypothetically, this definitely doesn't have photos all over the internet. Like, I'm the guy who, if you rent a party bus to drive to the lake at a professional real estate event, I'll get on the pole and dance. Like, it's, so like that doesn't come through in content, right? But if
Yeah.
you, when you meet me in person, like I'm an
Okay,
absolute
that'll be
smack
good content
talker.
idea.
Oh, it's shown. Yeah. Someone also apparently captured me jumping off the roof of the 2-story Airbnb into the pool, and so that made it as content too. But hey, I would say I'm a little bit hard to capture online without it looking fake, because I'm such a just like overbearing, not overbearing, but like aggressive personality.
Right.
But other than that, it's the same guy. Like I'm gonna tell you the same thing. I'm gonna act the same way. I just might be a little bit more of a smack talker in person than I am
Yeah.
online.
I think that's where it becomes important to just show up as who you are, be authentic. So you don't have to kind of think about, okay, how should I show up on my videos or content versus how do I show up in person? Yeah,
Absolutely agree.
cool. So guys, we have a few minutes remaining. So I want to be respectful of David's time. Do you guys have any questions? You can put it in chat or unmute yourself and ask questions for David. All right. David, you've shared tons of information. Any last words of wisdom?
Um, I would say this. I would say while content may not be what you are in the REsimpli Mastermind for, it is a multiplier for anything you choose to do in life, and I don't see it going anywhere. I think intellectual property and thought platforms are only growing.
Yeah.
I mean, the
They've
internet's only been
noticed.
around for like, we're like the last generation of people who remember what it's like to not have the internet. So,
True.
it's pretty damn new.
Yeah. No, it's when I started recently way back, I thought the whole thing would be just create a great product and people would use it. But that's not how things work. Like you gotta be out there. You could have the best product, but if people don't know about it, which is marketing, creating content, having all this good stuff, then nobody cares about it. Or you could have an average product, but you have the best marketing team behind it, and people are gonna know about it. So that's why, like, just it's interesting, like from running a business, like even on a house flipping business, property management business, recently, how important it is to have a presence, have an online presence, like be out there, whether it's whatever platform, whatever medium you feel comfortable with, whether it be blog, video, podcast, whatnot, just pick pick a medium and then just be the expert in that. And then eventually you can figure out how to leverage other social media platforms on that. All right, David, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing, how to build community, how to leverage that. Anything we can do to add value to you, please let us know. We're always here to, help in any way we can.
My cop out answer to that is always, if you see something I produce on online that you enjoyed, share it.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that. Cool. Thank you, David. Thank you, guys. Thanks.